Hey, welcome back to Fed Up, the number one podcast where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll, and with us yet again, our executive producer, Mr. Chris Miner.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
Oh, good. It feels like it's been too long since we've done one of these now.
It does, and it kind of has. When we've been going on the cadence that we have, 1 week feels like an eternity, and there's been so much that's happened in the meantime. So you're right, but it's good to see you. You look AA championship fresh.
Yeah, it was fun to get that done. This is one of my favorite episodes. It's become one of my favorite episodes. I mean, maybe because my team's taking part of it in both times that we've done it, but it's just fun to recognize the accomplishments, hear the stories. You know, I personally glean a little bit from everyone, you know, when they talk a little bit about what, you know, makes up the chemistry, you know, how important culture is to teams, you know, when we're talking about, you know, champions like this. But teams who maybe came up a little bit short, maybe they can do a little bit of the same, you know, like take some notes and see how they might be able to join us for the third edition of this.
Well, us teams that love to chew and barbecue, we will go ahead and get our pens out, and we're gonna learn how to win today. No, it sucks going 2-Q, but it would suck even more if the league sucked and there weren't like people all around and the tournament didn't rule. Well, it was cool just even after shaking out the disappointment and like you just appreciate some good baseball. It's a lot of fun to watch. It sucks that it kind of stretched out this far for the A guys, but we can get into that later.
I'll echo that sentiment though about seeing guys, you know, around, you know, guys who maybe season ended a little bit earlier than they wanted, but you know, a lot of them were board members. You know, Jamie Houselog was around a ton. You know, Wade was around a ton. You know, just seeing a lot of guys that, you know, came out just to watch was super cool, and have a chance to catch up with them. You know, so that part of it was super fun for me. I always hate not being able to get to some of the other brackets.
Yeah.
Being in the AA, you know, you at least get to see half the action, you know, out there at Alley Magnet. But, yeah, it's something I wish I could go out and see a little bit more, the A and the B. But and yeah, that was absolutely, I think, a little bit of a bummer to not finish as scheduled with that A bracket. May have had a big part in the way that it finished. I'm sure the Loons are what-ifing a little bit. My heart hurts for them a little bit because it kind of felt like Loons against the world, you know, there for a little while. You know, it just, the schedule didn't break out the way they wanted. Stiffed them on that umpire. It's just
let alone the way their regular season wrapped up.
Yeah, you know? That too. Yeah. Well, that team, yeah, they probably wanted a lot more out of it, but they had a nice run, you know, so it was good to see them do that. Congrats to our champions for sure. We've got 4 guests lined up today that are going to cover each of the teams that are hosting a cup here at the end of the season. 3 of them are from the North Division. How much stock do we put in division strength based on the postseason results? Are we declaring the North the toughest division to play in, or are we reading too much in that if we do?
It depends on if you value hardware or if you value numbers. You know, if you're a hardware guy and let's just say if you're a Big Ten commissioner, you want your squads to win every bowl game, right? So in that regard, there's an argument to say the North run this piece or whatever you want to say. But I'm sure there are plenty of people who have counterpoints to that. I might have some internally as well. But I figure, yeah, it's an interesting discussion. If you're going to go on the Federal League website all winter, there's going to be 3 North teams up there. And then when we go to next year's preview episode and we have 300 new subscribers, because we're so hot right now, and they like, who are these guys coming, you know, picking.
I will say, for guys that are new to the league who maybe don't know the difference between AAA, B, A, and AA, right? It's a nice little recruiting tool to see, you know, somebody comes and stumbles upon a Google search and ends up on the Federal League website and they see that, the Capital City Cannons, they're champions. You know, that's a nice little piece. Maybe I'll reach out to them, and, you know, they're geographically convenient. So
yeah, you'll have something ridiculous like a pitcher that wears number 99 that lives in Rosemount driving all the way up to freaking Brooklyn Park or whatever. I don't know. It's something ridiculous like that. If you get the banners up on the website, you're going to be picking our guys from down here.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. That's actually how I ended up with the A's. I was aware of actually the old MSMABA league. I grew up in Becker, and the Buzzards play in that league. So I Googled the Buzzards and saw who that they were playing against. And I saw Apple Valley was a B champion, at the time. And I'm like, yeah, I want to go play for a competitive squad. I didn't know it was the lowest division, so I reached out to them, and they thankfully had me. But there's something to that, I think.
Maybe I'm just naive. I didn't realize how many just people come into this blind, like with no lead in, people just looking to play ball, which makes this exponentially more awesome, because I was under the impression it's like, oh, they know a guy, right? Until I realized there's people just waiting in the free agent pool. What are you talking about right now?
Yeah.
So, it's really cool. So, for all those North teams, seriously, it's going to be there. There's an argument this way or that way, but, as far as functionality, I think there's a lot of pros to it.
Yeah. It's just funny the way it turned out. I think we're all in pretty much agreement that the West was maybe one of the stronger divisions all year long, but they come away empty-handed, as does the South. But again, maybe top to bottom, those might be the two best divisions.
When we all get bored in Thanksgiving, we can all circle back to this kind of stuff.
Well, it's time now to grab our drinks and raise a glass. It'll be our official second edition of the Toast to the Champions. So let's go ahead and bring on our first guest. Well, it's time now to bring on our representative for the B bracket. It is the Chief Cannon himself, Mr. Chris Kalina. Chris, welcome back to Fed Up.
You?
Well, you are the only team to make it through the postseason 4-0 without a loss. So that's a pretty great accomplishment in and of itself. But talk to us. How did it feel to wake up a champion?
Well, the way the regular season went, it certainly wasn't what I was expecting going into it, but I was certainly hoping that if we were in one of the lower brackets, that we could actually pull off a result like this. And I had to have a pep talk. We go 3-13 on the season. And after that last game is over, okay, guys, are we in or are we out? If I don't have 9 guys that are committed, they're going to be there for every game, no matter what time it is, we're not doing it. And lo and behold, what do I have? One guy in, another guy in, another guy in. And all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, so we're in for every game, no matter what, right? Okay. And I was down to the wire. Jamie is like, hey, I have to have an answer. We're in. And so takes center stage. Everybody is saying, okay, Tick Mabel doesn't matter. I'm going to play the championship games. First weekend, we had 10 guys. And I knew I had my big guns coming back for the second weekend, so I thought, well, if we can just survive, get that second game after we end up having a good one with Chaska there. They threw their best guy, we threw our best guy. Well, get that second round, I'm thinking, we're going to face their ace. Look at this. We're going to have a team that's higher seed that's going to have their best guys they got to buy. Quite sure it would be nice to win this game and go drink beer and watch them play another game instead of being on there playing ourselves. And look what happens. Had the same thought, going to the third game when I was against St. Anthony. Boy, I'd really like to be drinking beer watching our opponents play here, and instead of actually playing again. Sure, it happens again. Unfortunately, St. Anthony had a couple of injuries that, they were really scrambling toward the end there, but they were still able to make it through and play all the games. I'll tip the cap to them for at least showing up and doing that, though. But, they came out there, and I had a fresh guy ready to go that championship game, and he goes out there, and first inning, I remember telling Laird, I told him, I said, watch that 4-hitter. He hits bombs. That's John Novak. Well, the 3-hitter got hurt, wasn't there. Throws one right down the middle of the 3-hitter who moved up, and next thing you know, there's a piss rocket getting hit over the fence. Back to Jerry, by the way, that was a 3-hitter.
Yeah, well, what an incredible story to go from potentially bowing out of the playoffs to ultimately a championship. And yeah, John Novak, he got a couple of guys in this postseason tournament with some pretty good Rockets. So unbelievable talent. But congrats to your team for sustaining the bracket. I mean, you don't know the Cannons very well if you weren't giving your squad a chance to win this thing, going into it. When you have Zapf and you have Smiley, you've got guys on the mound that can really put together some great outings for you, but it's the plight of every team, right? You got to get you guys to show up. You got to get them to buy in. But so glad it worked out for you. Talk a little bit about what that means to a squad to go through the rough season that you had. You mentioned 3-15, regular season record, but then to have a chance to push the reset button and enter a postseason bracket, on level footing again with some teams that have also experienced some struggle.
I wasn't sure if we were going to back next season or not, just because team morale was down. Guys were, I don't know if I'm coming back. A couple of guys like that. But then all of a sudden, the tables turn. You go out there, you have a result like this, you get a few wins. The team actually goes out there and plays as a team and wins as a team. That really says just mountains for what the team is capable of. At that point, I want to come back at this point now. So now I got guys who are on the fence. No, we're doing this, right? We're going to be in. Of course. You think I want to just go out on a whimper? There's no way.
So you think this is some kind of moment that your group can build off of heading into next year? Or do you think that this is potentially something that may not be the needle mover that one would think it is?
No, this definitely was what we needed to keep it going. There were guys, like I say, they were wanting to keep it going, but the frustration, we have 9 guys in the team, not great, bare bones. There are other guys hurt. Doing, Now there's some questions that were being asked earlier on the season. Get to the postseason and you have a result like this, so everybody starts showing up and everybody's having a lot more fun because we're actually competitive in-game winning. Makes a big difference.
I was going to say, everyone's familiar at this point with what has happened with turnover in the last couple of years with you guys. We've kind of beaten it to death. And everyone knows about Zap, everyone knows Smiley. Who are some of the other guys maybe that don't get the run publicly in this forum, or perhaps for you guys that have really stepped up once, you had the exodus of a few guys a couple of years ago? Who are the guys that have stepped up to really kind of help you pull through this as you guys have been fighting to find your footing?
No, first off, losing Brett Hughes really wasn't the thing I wanted to have. It wasn't, obviously, if those of you that don't know, he decided to get away from the cold weather of Minnesota in the winter. So that's going to be Bonita Springs where he's at. Oh, okay, one guy escapes. The rest of us are stuck here. I had Matt Bailey. Matt Bailey attended every single game, was there, banged up a little bit, but he goes out there able to play. He's been there ready to go every time. There to actually put a few games, might have missed a couple in the middle. Didn't pitch a lot in the middle of the season because he has another team that he's the main pitcher for. But when he stepped up and pitched, it's one of those, he can get you a win in any game. Got guys off balance there. This year, though, we were missing 2 big guys that actually had back surgery in one case and an injured back, and still, I don't know what's going on with that one. But that was Luke Niebauer, who played infield, outfield, or utility. Got a good bat. So hoping he can return next year. But then Caleb Jester, we signed him, and then
building off that, trying to get things sorted. I know you guys have been fighting the good fight, trying to find a place to call home. What's the update with the situation where you guys are trying to play most of your games? Are you searching, or you got anything figured out there?
Well, so far, we're keeping Greenfield for now. I know there's quite a few improvements in the future. I don't know how far in the future, but I'm looking to try to pick up on Noble a little bit. I know whenever we play a couple other fields up north, I'm looking at the Blaine Baseball Complex. So there are a couple of things I'm looking at. So for a price, I'm talking triple. At least the one thing we have, we do mount.
Well, it's certainly a great accomplishment. So I'm glad that your group is feeling, proud of that. Talk a little bit about your expectations for next season.
Well, next season we are coming back.
Jump right from the pan into the fire now, having wrapped up the Federal League postseason. The Hickory is the next thing up for you. I know you've been working hard on getting those brackets and schedules aligned. What's on your plate now, and how is the planning going for the tournament this year?
Pretty much ready to go. Gotten everything I needed.
Well, it's a great event. I am just so grateful that you've been able to keep Ron Catone's legacy going and keep that event thriving. I know so many guys, ours included, really look forward to to that. So congrats once again on your championship. a toast to you and your guys. Raise a glass for sure. Well deserved, well fought, well earned. Looking forward to seeing you out in St. Michael. Congrats again, and thank you for your time today.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing everybody out at St. Michael as well.
Thanks, Chris. It was so great to have Chris Kalina back on, this time as a champion. I think the Cannons really needed that win. I just feels like a team that really had a down year, maybe even on the verge of collapsing. They've had a couple of forfeits in the last couple of years, so fantastic that they were able to put it together. Not surprised at all that they won, given the fact that they've got, some great pitching with Zapf and Ackerman. But to see it come to fruition for them, hats off to them. Congrats.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to have is a shitty summer and have it be a drag and be a chore. And you feel for those guys after. I mean, any team that loses core guys that are studs and try to trudge through it, you feel for them because it's not easy and it's not fun, weathering that storm all the time. So to have them come out the back end of this in the last, or what's it, 2 years now, with a little bit of, at least a little upward, ending on a good note. For them, I think you're looking for any positive, and it's a great way for them to end this summer.
Well, let's pick up our glasses one more time because it is time to toast our A champions, the St. Michael Angels. I'll remind everybody they were my preseason pick to win the A.
You did pick them to lose their first game of the playoffs, though.
Yes. Nobody goes round for round here.
You weren't a true believer.
I picked them before the season started. Is that not good enough for you? Are you not entertained?
And then you told Dan to his face, I don't believe in you in your first game.
Bulletin board material.
All right. So actually, you're probably the reason why they pulled it out.
Yeah, I'll take credit for it.
No, it was a good pull. I mean, they're a safe bet. I mean, they could potentially be a double-A team if they put things together, right? And Dan's always a good guy to talk to, so.
Well, let's bring him on. Well, when it came time to choose our Class A representative, only one name came to mind for me. Frequent contributor, often in the playoffs, but it's nice to have you back as a champion. Welcome to the toast, and welcome back to Fed Up, Dan Pluff.
Thanks for having me, and I'm glad you thought of somebody who didn't deserve to be here, but it's always fun to join you guys, and I'm glad you brought your sidekick. He's definitely the main attraction, so glad you got Chris on.
I was going to say, if you had a punch card, you probably get a free sub by now for as many times you've been on this thing.
I like the idea, yeah. So I feel like I get a sandwich from you at Hickory.
Well, Dan, it was an unbelievable run for you guys through the playoffs. Obviously one that was, we'll call it delayed because of weather, right? Your bracket was by far the most traumatically affected. How much do you feel like the weather played in the outcome? And just talk to me about, as neutral as you can, how fair of a shake did both teams get in this thing?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think the weather was a big factor, right? So now to your question around, fair shake, I think when it came down to the final two, the JTs and us, I think we both had plenty of rest, certainly from last Thursday until Wednesday. I don't know who pitched for them that first championship game, but boy, you would think that, after 6 days of rest, they could have thrown their number one again. So I think in the end, it probably was fair from that standpoint. Now, knowing kind of personally how my arm felt last week versus this week, JT's, I don't think Mother Nature had your back on that one. There was no chance I was throwing last week. So the extended delay did kind of allow me to get back out there. Didn't feel good. It was quite painful. My pregame bullpen was maybe about 8 pitches before I wanted to throw up from the baby that my shoulder was having. So I had to shut it down early. But once I got in the game, the adrenaline gets going and it wasn't so bad. I think, it definitely helped the Angels out for sure, having that extra time in there.
And what a difference it made, because you were phenomenal in that championship game. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Talk about the season as a whole. Just, you guys were obviously up and down. You won some, you lost some, floating around that 500. You guys closed the regular season really well, heading into the playoffs. How important was it for you to capture that momentum in the regular season heading into the postseason?
Yeah, it's really an interesting story, right? So I think it was maybe early July. We were sitting in the B bracket. We were, maybe 4-10, somewhere in that range. I don't remember the exact record, but we had a pretty tough schedule this year. I know a lot of folks dig on the North, but there's some good teams up there, and then some of our non-conference games, if we call them that, were really tricky and tough this year. The schedule lightened up a little bit for us in July. We were able to, I think, win 4 of our final 5. We won our last 3. So we propelled all the way up to the 2 seed in the A. But we're one of those teams, and I know most teams in the Federal League feel the same way, that if we've got our 9, we can compete with just about anybody. If we've got, we're missing a handful of contributors, the lineup gets pretty thin towards the bottom. The arms coming out of the bullpen are, maybe not as strong as we'd like to compete with top tier in the league. So, and hopefully the Angels listening aren't, feeling jabbed at, but I think it's just a reality. We're getting a little bit older. We've got to find some talent and infuse some youth into the team. But when we've got our guys, we feel like we can win. We were able to do that a little more in July and got some good momentum going in. And, the rest is history once we hit the playoff time.
You haven't thrown a ton this year. Last night, when I stopped by to check it out, I expected to see you out there. And when I did, I was wondering, how long is he going to go? Because I knew you've been kind of dealing with it. Shove all 7. There a little bit of finality to the season type of deal in your head? Like, okay, we're just riding this thing through 7, or were you going to finish that game no matter what, you think?
Yeah, no, there was almost no chance Mark was going to pull me out of that game. I think he would admit to that, but there was no way I was going to let him. Jokingly, we've had some interactions over the years where he kind of says, I think I'm going to pull you. I'm like, no, you're not. And I'll just go back out on the mound. Yesterday would have been one of those situations. I was really glad we scored 2 in the bottom of the 6th. So if you were still around, you saw me pinch run for Mick when he got on. Like, even though I'm a pitcher, I'm a little bit faster than Mick. I'm like, I want that run to score, because if we go more than 7, I'm going to be heading right to the ER after this game. So I wanted to make sure we got at least that run in, and it turned out to be a big one. But yeah, wasn't the smartest thing to keep throwing. Honestly, I had some folks on the team kind of saying, like, I don't know if it's worth it, but it, to me, especially with my last game on the team, really felt like, boy, I got to go out in style here. So wanted to give it everything I had, and that included some impromptu pinch running late. But yeah, it definitely hurt. Last night was a long night in bed, trying to find the right spot to where my shoulder wasn't flaming throughout the night.
You said last game on the team. Is that last game of the season, or are you breaking some news here on Fed Up?
Okay, yeah, so probably it's some news that I think the team knew. Josh, you're playing coy. You knew a couple weeks ago. For the rest of the Federal League, yes, I actually kind of officially retired after the Mustangs game, and as we talked about, Mother Nature had other plans, so delayed, and they dragged me right back out. So it was the shortest retirement in Federal League history, but after that one last night, it ended beautifully. I promised my son before the Mustangs game that I was going to finish with a slider. I was hoping it was going to be a strikeout slider, and the last batter from the Mustangs, the first pitch of the at-bat, he popped up on a slider. I'm like, well, I kind of met what I promised the kid, right? And then, got a chance late in the game against the JTs last night to finish with a nice little back foot slider, and got the strikeout that I wanted to end on with the slider. So it was a little bit poetic, and getting to hold the trophy with the guys was an awesome way to go. I do plan on, as schedules allows, I've got 3 kids and still coach my boy and some other softball obligations. I'll try to get out to the field and maybe do some pinch hitting, pinch running, but in terms of throwing, those days are probably behind me at this point. The shoulder just can't really sustain it much longer.
Well, I know the league, myself, many people are certainly disappointed to hear that. You never want to see anybody's career come to an end. I know your teammates are, I'm sure, feeling that right now, but certainly a bittersweet way to go out, to be able to go out, throw a complete game in the championship, raise that cup with your teams. Yeah, maybe baseball, maybe Mother Nature, they all colluded to make that happen for you.
Yeah, and now I will speak for the team. I don't think they've accepted my resignation. I don't know if that's a thing in the Federal League. There was lots of things on the team thread this morning questioning my manhood and other things, accusing me of having torn lady parts. I don't know. It just does. I don't maybe feel welcomed by the Angels anymore. So maybe if I feel good, I'll join the South Metro squad. I love that hat, so let's move from the Northwest down to the South side.
It's a hike. I will just, for me personally, and for the rest of it, I don't want to sit here and go, oh, you're the greatest. But for the guy who was throwing his last game last night, you look really good. And I bet you the JTs got to you that one inning, right? They pieced together a few hits, but they can hit the ball. And so, I mean, just to kind of piggyback on that, Wade threw a really good game for JTs as well. So would be remiss to gloss over that. But the way you look last night, I mean, if I were you, I'd watch that slider that I got on video over and over when I go to bed, because that was disgusting. So if that's the last one, it was a really nasty one to go out on. So
it's funny.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah, Wade, our catcher, we always shake hands after the game. I think the first thing he said was, "Why'd you wait until the last pitch to throw a good slider?" So, that last one came out really, really nice. That went exactly where I wanted it to go, so that was fun.
I'm glad your teammates have the same banter that we do, right? Who needs enemies when you've got, good teammates, jabbing at you? But I gotta ask, why was the celebration so muted by you, your catcher, the whole team? It just kind of felt like business as usual. There's no dog pile, no throwing gloves. It just kind of seemed like you guys expected the result.
Yeah, I think I actually thought about that afterward. I was like, that was a pretty trash celebration. Let's be honest with each other. Like, I just, shook Wade's hand, gave a couple fist bumps, but the truth is, I was probably more relieved than excited at that point. Like the JTs, Chris, you just mentioned it a minute or two ago. That's a good team. I can see why they're definitely on the rise. They got young. They are fast as hell. I mean, there was some guys running over the bases. They were bunting. Like, that's a young team that's really got some future ahead of them if they recruit a couple more players. And boy, they were designed to be my absolute kryptonite. I don't love throwing to lefties, and they had like 5 of them. Every guy that came up in the first, second, and third inning, I'm like, seriously, another one? Like, come on, guys. So I was hoping they were going to try to like do some pinch hitting or something, get some righties in there. They didn't bite. So especially finishing with, I think I had 3 lefties in the 7th inning. I think 8, 9, and 1 were all lefties for them. I was just excited to get out of there. So yeah, I probably should have been like a little more emotional. Like, yeah, we won, but yeah, that's on me. So the trash celebration, I think if I'd have gone in, hugging Wade and throwing him in the air, I think the team would have piled out. But I just wanted to shake their hand and get out of there because I was feeling pretty fortunate to come out on top there.
But they say momentum is your next day's starting pitcher. So maybe the semifinal, we'll call it, the first game against the JTs wasn't really on you guys' mind, but how much does 12-0 enter into the mindset of the team going into that last game?
Yeah, I guess I can't speak for the team. I can speak for me. Sean is a good pitcher, Sean Model. So to see him throw up a dozen on a good pitcher, now I've heard through the grapevine that there was some umpire, maybe discrepancies from how we felt versus how he perceived some goings on within the game. But either way, an umpire is not going to cost you a dozen runs. So I went into that assuming I was going to see some pretty good bats, and I definitely did. So they threatened in the first. I kind of settled in for a few. I think 3rd, 4th, and 5th went pretty smooth, but I kind of had this feeling of a guillotine above my head, and it kind of slammed down in the 6th. I was lucky to get out of that with just 2, honestly. I think they had 4 straight singles to start that inning. It could have gotten ugly. So luckily got a couple of outs there and kept the damage small. But yeah, no, you're right. There was definitely a little bit of feeling like, boy, these guys can and will explode at any moment. And luckily we just kept that to the smallest crooked number possible and gave us a position to come back in the bottom half.
It's an A championship. You're one of 4 teams that end their season on a win. Is there a yeah but feeling when it comes to winning the A? Or would you say that it's still a more resounding positive at the end of the year?
I would say it was a resounding positive. I think the Angels, one of the strengths of our team is we know who we are. We are not the Grays. We're not the Lobos. We're not the Pipers. We don't make any illusions. Do we have some guys on the team that could play on any one of those squads I just mentioned? But as a whole aggregate unit, we're just not in the same league. We don't belong in the trade. A couple years ago, we made AA. We beat one team, but made a fairly quick exit. I think for us, A was, again, starting in the B back in early July. A felt like a pretty good, kind of landing spot for us. So when you're playing teams of like caliber to come out on top, I get there's probably some AAA guys watching this kind of like thumbing their nose like, yeah, but like you said. But for us, that felt good. So, one of the guys on the team, Dan Gorder, one of the comments in the team thread this morning was, it feels good to wake up a champion. And I'll be damned, he's right. It felt good. Whether you won the AAA, AA, A, or B, I would assume all the guys you interviewed tonight are all going to say it felt good to wake up that next morning that you went out on top.
Yeah, I think it's such a great positive for the league that we do our postseason this way. I mean, you get a chance to, even if you're down in that B, right, and you got your teeth kicked in for 18 games, you've got a chance now at the end of the season to put 2 weeks together, make a little bit of a run, and lift a cup and find something to really build around for next year. So I'm glad to hear you say that. You are a champion. Congrats to you and your team. Certainly a bittersweet moment for the league to accept those resignation papers if the St. Michael Angels indeed do that. But maybe you'll channel your inner Brett Favre and have a couple of retirements, and we'll be able to see some more of you, some more 1-7 out on the diamond.
Man, you're the second person who's called me that in the last 24 hours, and I'm not digging that. So I think I might show up to Hickory and we might fight. So,
well, Dan, thank you again for coming on the podcast. You might be able to retire from the league, but definitely not retiring from Fed Up. We might have to bring you on as our special playoff contributor in years to come. But for now, congratulations on a well-played postseason, and a toast to you and your teammates. Congratulations.
All right, thanks on behalf of the team. Just thanks for having me and us kind of part of the podcast, and appreciate what you do for the league, and looking forward to being involved in the future, man.
Thanks, Dan. So great to have Dan on. I just find him to be a really entertaining individual. He's got kind of a dry sense of humor, I think, but it's my brand. I love talking to him, and I think the nickname I saw first from you, the Magic Dragon. Yeah. I think that's awesome.
But Mexico or whatever. Yeah. I mean, I bet you that guy can move salsa. He just looks like a guy that's got rhythm.
Yeah, I don't get that vibe from him.
But that guy did. But the guy can shove. I'll give him that.
Yeah, I love the fact that he wears the high socks too. There's not a lot of pitchers that do that anymore. So I was able to watch the live cast there that Lars put up, and I'm so grateful that he did that. So I had an opportunity to kind of see him throw, but he looked absolutely dirty on camera. Can't imagine what it looked like in the batter's box.
Yeah, no, it was good to see him finish the season strong. I know he's been struggling with the wing, and so he looked. I was there. He looked like he's supposed to look, so it was cool to see.
Yeah, he's clearly a guy that could still do it at a high level for the foreseeable future, but I got to tip my hat to him. He's a guy that is more concerned with just being able to play good catch with his son, and wants to be more involved there. So I'm grateful that I've met him. I consider him a friend now, and just had some great conversations with him off camera, but have certainly enjoyed the time. Congrats to him and the St. Michael Angels as they get the A championship done. Well, it's time now to toast to our Double-A champions, the Apple Valley A's. Pick up our glasses one more time. Double fisting for one per A, I guess. So, no, really looking forward to this one. Wish we could have maybe secured a better guest, but let's go ahead and bring them on. Well, it's time now to bring on our guests for the Double-A champions, the Apple Valley A's. And a bit of a bummer here. We had Tony Schaefer from my team all lined up. He had a little bit of a family emergency. Everything's fine. Family dog got away. Kind of took away his time that he had to record with us, which is, like I said, an absolute bummer because Tony is unbelievable guy, and I was so excited to introduce him to the league. He's been such a huge part of our success over the last 2 years, especially this season, but he's added so much to our culture. He's been so great on the field. He's such a great family guy, but he's been able to still just make a ton of our games too. So absolutely missed opportunity here for us to introduce Tony to the league. But luckily for us, we've got somebody close to the podcast that can step in on very short notice and cover. So let's go ahead and bring him on. Well, thanks, Chris, for having me.
Hey, well, sorry it's going to take me a minute to get used to being in this role, so bear with me. But the reason why we're doing this, obviously, is because the Apple Valley A's won their second straight AA playoff championship. And here representing the A's is the host of Fed Up. You know him, Josh Stoll. Welcome. Josh, what's your baseball story? What do you got?
Yeah, I don't know if we need to bore everybody with all of that, but I am excited to have the opportunity to love on my roster a little bit because just absolutely love this team, love playing with them, and just to have another opportunity to talk about who we are and what we do is fun.
Sure. No, I've been in touch with you throughout the summer and kind of knew what the expectations were going into the year and kind of rode along with you as you kind of went through the ebbs and flows. I got asked the first question, is this, obviously it's awesome to end the season on a win. Is there any of that but going on in the Apple Valley dugout as you look forward to 2026?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. You know, we've asked it of some of our other guests, you know, coming into this interview. I would say, yeah, there's a little bit of that. You know, to do something like win the AA is a nice accomplishment, certainly. You know, there's a lot of great teams, and we played some really good baseball to be able to do that. I think the game against Lonsdale was probably the best game we've played all year from start to finish. So that felt really good to beat some really quality teams, and at the end of the day, you know, have to use all of our depth to beat River Falls best 2 out of 3 on the second weekend. So it's a great accomplishment, but it's at the same time, it's something now we've done a second time. And, you know, I think there's a pretty good contingency in our dugout that is eyeing the next milestone, which, of course, is getting into and making a deep run in the AAA.
One thing I wanted to say is I was there for the playoffs on Sunday when you guys faced off with River Falls. You've talked about availability issues throughout the year. Couldn't help but notice it looked like a normal A's dugout when you guys threw the first pitch out on Sunday afternoon, not only in the dugout but in the bleachers as well. The energy seemed to be there like it normally, or like we're used to seeing. Did it feel that way on the field as well?
Yeah, you know, we've been a squad that always has showed up for the playoffs, which makes us really tough out, you know, come August. You know, we had 22 guys in uniform for the championship game, and we travel well. That's always my favorite photo every year, is the end of the year where all the kids are there. And, you know, I think with all the kids in there, we probably had 55 people in that end of the year photo, you know, that we took with just the players and kids. So it's fun to have that energy and have the crowd, you know, feeding into that for sure. But what makes it even more special is just when guys show up and they know they've got a role to fill. And you had, I think, 16 different starters on Sunday. We mixed in guys quite a bit, whether it be, you know, offensively, defensively. Guys ran. We had guys who were quick to jump out, coach a base, or catch a pitcher in between innings. But it really did feel like a great team effort all the way through, and that makes it a little bit more special to have everyone there to celebrate with.
Absolutely. So let's get to the run that you guys went on. AA is a tough-ass bracket, as we all know, and I mean, before we get into the championship weekend, maybe touch on the first, how you guys opened up, and you touched on the Lonsdale game. Maybe expand on a little bit on how you guys got to Championship Sunday.
Yeah, well, the biggest difference for us this year was being able to give Tim Scott the ball to start. We didn't have that ability last year. He had the UCL that he was dealing with, and he was still a big part of that championship last year. But being able to pencil him in as a starting pitcher really takes away a lot of anxiety from a manager standpoint. He threw both Saturdays for us. He opened up against a really good Middletown team, struck out 13, allowed just, you know, 1 hit in that one. Did the exact same thing the next weekend against River Falls. I think he struck out 13 again and 1 hit again. So he was unbelievable. Both times that he went, you know, we ran into, like I mentioned, the Lonsdale team, and Herm went for us in that one and threw well. Really, the pitching has been their strength all year long, but and that Lonsdale game was definitely, looking back, probably the hardest one that we went through. But we ran into Dave Meyer, who, you know, we've said on this podcast 1,000 times, when Meyer Marks goes, you know, it's anybody's game. So
well, you mind if I stop you?
Yeah.
Just because as long as we're there, we say all the time, as long as Meyer or Marks goes. Your first time you face River Falls, you see Derek Marks, correct? And then make it to Sunday, you open up with Dave Meyer, and then you see. Oh, by the way, we've been calling him the little brother. Dude's a refrigerator. Jared, we finally he's not little Marks, he's not Derek's brother, he's not he's Jared, and he's
got a name.
Stud. And he's a unit. But so the Marks game, obviously, anytime you're going up against Marks, it's going to be a battle, right? And River Falls pulls out that first game. When you get that first blow, how do you respond? What was that like? Not only having to turn around, do it right away, you also had to move to the other field for some reason. So just what was it like, the turnaround, like the rebound after you guys got kind of hit on?
Well, we actually out-hit River Falls in the game that Meyer went. He pitched well. We just never got anything going. He made pitches when he absolutely needed to get out of innings, and we lose that game 5-1. But they wanted to start right away, like bang bang right away, and I was worried that they're going to try and run him into that second game. So we're scheduled for an hour break. So maybe it was a little gamesmanship on my part, but I said we're going to use every minute until the scheduled game and make sure that if he's going to go, he's going to throw through some kinks and some rust. But he didn't go in that second game, as you mentioned. Jared, went in that, and he is a great pitcher. He has the same delivery as his brother, but he throws. It's maybe a little less velocity, but he's, great at hitting spots. And, I just told our guys that being in the exact same spot last year where we had to win that do or die game, against Burnsville, that it's all about momentum and which team can strike first. And we were able to put up one in the first, one in the second, and really keep that momentum going.
What was the Sunday evening like for you guys, or as you guys wound down, let everything kind of breathe a little bit? I'm assuming the energy was generally positive, but you mentioned there was a little unfinished business in most of your heads. What was the vibe like as you guys kind of had a couple beers and reflected a little bit?
Yeah, well, I'll say our celebration was better than the Angels. And we pre-ordered and pre-bought some champagne. We did it last year too. So had we not gotten it done, that would have been a little awkward to shovel that into the other dugout and let them get it. But we did it right. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of enjoyment. Guys sat around and just chatted about the season and slapped some backs for a while. But then we had the AAA game that was going on next door while shortly after we wrapped up. So we were able to go over there and watch the majority of that, and I think that just planted those seeds. I think guys are pretty aligned in terms of wanting to get there next year. For us, we've always known that we're a AAA team. We have the roster, we have the talent. It's just about the commitment for us. How often can we get our guys there? And I think some of those key guys, core guys, realize that's the case, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a little bit more consistency from some of those guys, but next year, our roster, it's deep too. And we've got a lot of talent, and that's the reason why we're still able to grab a decent seat in the AA and get there. And I can't, talk about a championship without mentioning some of those guys that get us to August. Guys like Sean Lindquist and Nate Bren and Tony Schaefer, being one of them for sure. That is just there all the time. Our catcher Chris Reese, we didn't see Dan Miller much this year, which is a big blow for us, but Reese caught almost every single game, and he's, I think, 53 years of age, so he was just an absolute just grinder for us. So just love those guys. Brian Cogswell, Brian Stengel was able to join us after a brain surgery, literally brain surgery in the off season. So he was just so grateful to be able to come back, and just a big lift for us. But yeah, the guys we're all pretty aligned that that's the goal next year, and we'll definitely be doing our best to put a more consistent effort together and go after those grays and prevent that 4-peat.
Looking forward to kind of put a bow on things. I look at you guys' team this year versus, across the board, year to year, your roster doesn't change much, right? So what changes? It's got to either be internally, or do you have your eye on maybe fortifying the numbers a bit? What does it look like moving forward into next year?
Yeah, it's a great question. We've lost a guy or two each of the last couple of seasons. We had Scott Angus went over to Vesely. It's It's tough to, especially pitchers. We've got such a deep staff to, keep guys fed with the number of innings. I know a guy like Tony Schaefer would love to throw more, and we had some key additions this year that really contributed. Tyler Naraki, we had him come over from Alaska Voyagers, and he played a big role for us this year. Had a rookie, a 35-year-old Zach Goodwin who joined. He played for a while with Stockman's Irish, so that was a great addition. And I think he's gotten a little bit of a taste of it now, and I hope to see him for more games next year. Do have plans to bring on another catcher, give us a little bit more depth at that position, and been talking to a young man who's been playing in the Tick Mabels, freshly 35. So looking forward to making that official with the off-season rumors and Hot Stove as well.
I know you guys take part at Hickory. With your numbers, you kind of bring the crew up and the guys just give everyone as many innings as they can get, right? You guys don't do much in the winter, do you? Do you guys take part in the hitting league or any of that?
No, we're, I would say once that final inning of the Federal League season is done, most of our core guys have other things that they're passionate about. We got a lot of great family guys, and they lean back in hard on that and their children, and a couple of guys that hunt, and we've got maybe a couple of guys that will go to some off-season tournaments. I'm one of them, heading down to Nashville here in about 6 weeks with Ryan Hess, and some of the guys from the Loons. Chris Reese goes down to Florida, but yeah, playing in the Hickory, we like doing that. We like to flip the depth chart there, where some of our guys who maybe didn't play much in the postseason will get a chance to be the starters and give the manager the little, hey, you should have played me more kind of thing. So that's kind of what we're looking for out of that tournament. We've been competitive there too. We made the championship game last year and lost a competitive game to Rockford. As far as the off-season hitting, it's just, it's not our jam, man. We don't really practice much, I don't know. It's not a lack of commitment. It's just, I think our guys are busy. Yeah. We show up and we play.
No, it's a nice vehicle for a lot of us to keep scratching the itch, but if the itch ain't there, you don't need to scratch it, right? You could have worse problems than finishing with the ship in a tough-ass AA division. I think it's really cool that you were able to actually get your squad together at the end of the year. Just haven't heard your plight week after week. I texted you. You guys looked like you normally look for the first time in a long time. So I just want to congratulate you and your squad, and best of luck not doing anything baseball related until next spring as you prep for maybe making the jump.
Yeah, I appreciate it, buddy. You've been a good supporter. It's nice that we've just developed this bond, and it's nice that you keep up with us, and we're genuinely rooting for us. So it felt good to get it done. I think after we dropped that first game, there was a moment of panic, and we realized how much disappointment there would have been if we didn't. So kind of like Dan shared in his interview, there's some relief after that final out. But yeah, I think a lot of our guys are looking forward to the offseason. But I'll tell you what, I'm thinking that maybe you and I need to kind of switch roles here, and you take the lead on some more of these interviews because you've done a great job.
Oh man, we're just having on-air production meetings right now. Okay. Hey, well, just finding my rhythm, buddy. And you never get to talk about your team, so I'm glad you got a couple minutes here to wax a little bit. It's hard to keep it in when you hear everyone else talking all year. So
well, I know our listeners get enough of me, but absolutely love the chance to be able to brag on some of my guys there. So thank you for leading that interview and getting us through the AA.
Instinct almost took over. I almost just asked you about Rosemount, but no, I figured it's your time to shine. I let you breathe a little bit and take the heat off you for one.
I appreciate that, buddy. You still got your jab in the post interview here, so I'm glad you were able to do that. But well, enough about the A's, enough about the AA. Let's go ahead and get on to the big dogs here. We've got another repeat contributor that we've lined up. Super excited to hear what he has to say about another unbelievable run by the Minoka Grays. Glasses ready? Well, it's time now to bring on our representative for the AAA bracket, Mark Von Ruden. We've had you on the podcast before, but it dawned on me that we've never really done your baseball story well. Would you mind just sharing yours with us?
Sure. I'm from La Crosse, Wisconsin. I grew up playing travel ball there. I was a member of the Shelby Youth Baseball Organization, one of the two main ones. If you guys aren't familiar, lacrosse hosts the Stars of Tomorrow tournament, which is one of the biggest baseball tournaments in the Midwest, so it's a pretty big baseball town. Grew up there, played baseball, travel baseball all the way up through high school. Then Legion. My Legion team won state my senior year, so then we got to go to the National Regional, which was a lot of fun. Beat a pretty good New Ulm team from Minnesota. Ended up losing to North Dakota, whatever. I went to the U of M my freshman year. After some tryouts that didn't go the way I wanted to, I transferred to Viterbo University in lacrosse, where I played baseball for about a year, and then I was not having any fun anymore, like so many others I've heard, and I stopped. Until I was about 28, and then my buddy Eric Bauman was on the Lakers, the Tech Mabel team that later became the Grays, and asked me if I wanted to play. And I said, well, I don't know. I'd had a bunch of injuries, which is not surprising to anyone that knows me. I had some neck issues, which I still have, and hadn't thrown a baseball in 6 years. But I said, sure. And now I've been here ever since, and we eventually got rid of the Lakers name, became the Grays, had some really, 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 really rough seasons for a long time. For those that have played against us for a while, like Brecky and some of the old Tech Mabel guys, will remember how bad we were at certain times. And then things just kind of fell into place, and here we are now.
Well, it's certainly been an evolution from those days, now celebrating a third straight AAA Federal League championship. Congratulations on that. But I wanted to just highlight just how much you've been a part of those runs. One of your teammates sent me some numbers that I'm going to try and turn you red with. You may or may not be aware that you are the all-time leader in plate appearances and at-bats for the Grays. You've scored 267 runs in those days with 263 hits. You are a 3-time All-Star, a team MVP, a 1-time Gold Glove, and now a 5-time Federal North Division champ and a 1-time state champ and 3-time Federal League champion. Congrats to you and your team. But I just have to acknowledge how much you've been a part of that, not only the winning, but the culture as well.
Well, I appreciate that. You know, I say it a lot, but I can't give enough props to Lars and Joey and all the people that they've brought in. They've done a really good job of not just bringing in really, really good baseball players, but like just people who fit in what we want to be as a team and the culture that we have. And, you know, I think we as a team like to think of ourselves as a family, and we like to think of us as a family team. We have little kids running around all over the place. We have, you know, families at the games of every week, and it really has just become kind of another family for me. So those are a lot of stats that I haven't thought about in a long time, and I think most of them are probably longevity stats, but hey, we'll take it. I'm still here. I'm still kicking.
Tell me how this year differs from the last. I mean, there's some obvious differences. You know, when you look at the bracket, you know, the bracket's 10 teams instead of 8. You guys had to come from the losers bracket this time to do it. But just tell me from a collective feel, what's different this year compared to the last 2 seasons?
Well, I mean, obviously the big one is that the playoff bracket was different. So, you know, and nobody really knew how that would play out. We knew that, you know, we didn't have to play a play-in game, which was huge. But I think still losing that first game was a pretty big detriment. So the league is getting better as a whole, I think, year in and year out. So there really wasn't any teams in that top 10 in that AAA bracket that you're like, okay, we're good there, right? Like everybody that you're going to play is going to come and bring their best and compete against you. And so I think we just decided that we're going to do what we always do and control what we can control and play good baseball, pitch well, play good defense, get runs where we could. That's always our strategy. I will say, I think this year we came in and we felt really good, especially about the depth that we had. I feel like we had enough injuries that we were able to cover without really missing a beat. So the depth that we had this year on this team was something I don't think we've had before. We've had good teams and had depth before, but I feel like we could have put 2 rosters together and still been competitive with the amount of guys that we had that were ready to go.
Coming into this season, there were some pretty big question marks around some of your key contributors from years past. Jack Nelson being one of them, Bub Lovis being another. You weren't really sure at the outset what you were going to get from them. Ended up being maybe more than you expected, at least with Jack's case, but they were there in the playoffs. You know, Bub again had another injury, but just talk a little bit about, you know, what those guys' contributions have been and how big of a part that they've been in terms of this run over the last couple of years?
Well, I think Jack speaks for himself. Jack is one of the most dominant pitchers. He's one of the most dominant hitters in this league. So whenever you can have him, like, it's awesome. And his work schedule gets a little bit crazy, and and he just had a little kid, and so yeah, we didn't really know what his summer was going to be like, but he was there as much as he could be, and it was a lot. He got to throw a lot of innings. And then, man, I think Bub is probably one of the most underappreciated pitchers in this league. If you look at the teams that man has shut down consistently over and over and over again, I don't know how he doesn't get mentioned in these, well, I shouldn't say these top 10 lists, I'll say Cliff's top 10 list. Top 10 list. But he absolutely deserves to be there. I mean, that pitching performance that he has done, he's faced, I think, the Mammoth now 3 times and given up maybe, at most 3 runs in a game. Like, he just shuts down good offenses. So it's hard to say anything, that people should already know about him. Now, going into the season, he had been hurt. Jack had a baby. I was hurt. We didn't know how many innings we were going to need, so we were really fortunate to get, Ben to sign with us and Taylor to come play with us too. Because honestly, we were at a point where I'm like, I don't know how many pitchers we're going to have. So it worked out well because we really definitely needed all of them this year come playoff time.
I'm told that those signings almost didn't both happen, that there was some concern around just having enough innings to share and go around. Your teammates give you a lot of credit for making sure to bring both of them on. You were so willing to sacrifice your own reps and just focusing on the good of the team and what it would take to compete for another championship. Talk a little bit about the contributions that having Ben and Taylor both come on as the new guys in town, but be such a dominant force for you guys all year long.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Ben showed up day one, and first time we had him in a bullpen, we're like, yeah, this guy's going to be just fine. He throws hard, got a crazy changeup that I think all of us in the batting cage missed about 30 seconds. Slider is nasty, and he likes to pitch, and he can throw a lot. And that's something that I don't think that we've had, is a guy that can throw back-to-back days if you want him to. That's not something that we're really known for. I mean, Grill can throw every day. Kenny can throw 27 innings in a single day if he wants to. But I don't know if we've ever had a guy that can just, throw 7 innings one day and come back the next day and be ready to go again. And, that came in really big during the playoffs when we did lose to the Mammoth, and we had to beat him twice. And, if I had gotten in trouble in that championship game, then Ben and Taylor were both ready to go. Then Taylor, he threw just a gem against the Minnetonka Saints, complete game, which we needed, with Bub getting hurt again. We needed another complete game to put us in a position to win 2 against the Mammoth. He came in and delivered. These guys, a lot of these guys that come from town ball, they're used to pitching on these big stages. They're used to pitching in big games. They want the ball. When Bub got hurt, Ben was immediately like, give me the ball. Taylor was immediately like, give me the ball. I wanted the ball. We had, 4 pitchers with Skog, because Skog ultimately got the ball. So we had 4 pitchers that wanted it in that situation in that big moment. So you can't say enough about that kind of competitiveness. And the fact is without the pitching help, we would have been in trouble against the Mammoth of trying to beat them twice.
I want you to think back to those Laker days when the team wasn't, perennial favorite, when they weren't crushing people game in and game out. What do you think was some of the bigger milestones along that path on that journey? Is it just adding talent to the roster, or is it culture-based? What are your thoughts?
I think it's always culture-based, honestly. I mean, talent helps, right? You need talent sometimes to be able to, get the respect to make change, right? But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The moment John Widerski joined us was kind of a turning point. He gave us a lot of talent. He's a great ball player, but he's an awesome dude. And he had no time for people acting out. He had no time for people yelling at umpires. He had no time for teammates yelling at each other. And I think everyone kind of took note of that. And that's when we started to make positive changes. I mean, we weren't always... I feel like we get along pretty well with most teams now. I think that our culture is such that we get along with most of the teams we play. We're competitive. We play hard. But I think most teams like us for the most part and respect us. And that was not always the case. And I think that started a lot with John back in the day. And after John, came Joey and at the time Tony Boxwell. I don't know if you guys know Tony Boxwell, but he's another guy that mashes.
You tune into every podcast, so you know that we touch on the Mount Fed teams a lot, particularly the top 4 or 5 usually. Oh, and with that in mind, we're all used to hearing about you guys, the Mammoth, what have you. Give us a team in AAA you think is one to look out for. The Minnetonka had a good season, obviously. Newmarket kind of rebounded nice. St. Louis Park's figuring it out. Who do you have your eye on as far as the next team in that division?
Man, again, that's tough, right? Because even through the AA, all of those teams are really, really good. I would say, I don't know if I know a good answer for that. I will say that Waconia really, really surprised me. Well, not really surprised me. They were awesome all year. I just had not seen them play, so I didn't get that. I don't know if you guys watched that game against us, but Bob got hurt, but their pitchers also got hurt, and they just rolled out another guy throwing hard with a nasty slider. And then he got hit, and then they brought out another guy who was throwing hard with a nasty slider. Like, they've got 5 or 6 awesome arms in that stable. And that's what it takes, right? You need to play good defense, and you need a lot of pitching. You need enough pitching that you can beat anybody on any day if you play 3 other games this week. And
for sure,
those guys have arms, and they can hit. They put a lot of balls in play. They just, they hit a lot of them at us, which is helpful. But I think that team's going to be really good for a while. I think they've got some younger guys on that team too. But yeah, they played hard, grindy.
I think they're kind of a lot of us are in the same boat as you, not knowing them, right? And just hearing that they're good, and then the start they got off to and how they finished. I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's just interesting you brought up AA too. A lot of those teams are 1 or 2 players away from being in the mix.
Well, it's the same thing. Apple Valley with Tim Scott can beat anybody any day. And you've got a couple other pitchers too, so I'm not trying to single you that out, but Tim Scott is as elite as they come. Burnsville gives everybody fits whenever they have their guys, right? Rockford is super grindy. And there's so many good teams that it just depends on what day you catch them on, Some days you get lucky, and other days you run into Tim Scott throwing a perfect game, It's just the way it goes. But yeah, Waconia was really, really good. And I know people would be like, oh, your score. But score is not representative of how good of a team that is. They're going to be very good for a long time. Snappers, obviously, but we all knew that because it's all the Newmarket guys that came over. And then the new Newmarket team, minus the Snappers, were also really, really good. So it's going to be fun for a while, man. The talent's just going up and up, and I love to see it.
I was impressed with, we've talked about a little bit how you take a back-to-back championship team and then you just add to it. And I understand you guys had some circumstance that kind of allowed it, but it's always interesting with a championship established group bringing new guys in. It helps that they shove and do all that, so I think that ingratiates them a little quicker, right? But it's always interesting just trying to hear how, when you hear, they're getting these new guys, how's that going to work? You usually end up, it's going to be fine, right? But it was.
But it does usually. But like I said, culture is important. You need people to come in that buy in, and we got a lot of comments during the tournament about how many guys we have, and
yeah.
Size of our roster. And the fact is that only works if people buy into what you're trying to accomplish, right? Like, first game against Lakeville, Dan Skog was not in our batting lineup. Dan Skog is one of the best hitters in this league. He is the all-time leading hitter for Coon Rapids in the Metro Mini, whatever town ball division that is. And then he came back the next game against Waconia and went 4 for 4 with 3 RBIs or something stupid. Just typical Dan Skog stuff. You gotta get people to buy in, and that's not always easy to do when you have 18 good ball players, and you gotta be like, hey, you're not in the lineup today. That's just how it goes. You look for your time to contribute.
That was one of the things I noticed too about your squad is you had 20 guys in the championship game, that in that photo. It's got to be tough to keep that many mouths fed, especially with the level of talent of, the guys that you have on that roster. Do you anticipate, ever, fraction, breaking off and going to a spot where they can maybe get more innings or more at bats? Because we've only got so many innings left once we hit this age. What are your thoughts there?
Possibly. I mean, some of us we're on other teams, right? I play on a TCMABL team to try and get more innings, but they play on Sundays and we play on Sundays, so that doesn't work out a ton until after the season's over. But I don't know. Like I said, Joey is always pretty upfront with expectations and stuff. If you guys know Joey, he's very detailed in the stuff that he does. And before he even brought Taylor or Casey on this year, he had conversations with a number of us that have been on the team for a long time saying, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And the fact is, like I said earlier, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the ball this year after my arm surgery this winter. Buck was hurt. We didn't know what we were going to get from Jack. I think all of us don't want to be in a position where we're not going to be able to put out a competitive team. I think we want a competitive team every time we play. So that means whether we go with 9, we go with 18, we want a team out there that is respectful to the competition that we're playing, right? We want to bring what we have to play who we're playing. So as far as I know, I think everyone's bought in. Would I like to pitch a few more innings here and there? I guess. But I knew what this was going in. Like I told Joey from the get-go, I don't care if I pitch. We need pitchers. Bring them in. If there is anybody that's worried about, innings and stuff like that, right now I haven't heard it. We have in the past had people who wanted more innings at specific things and they went their way, and there are no hard feelings there. It's just, I think everyone that's here wants to be here. We do truly all really get along really well, and we look forward to being around each other all the time. People make jokes about us taking batting practice all winter and stuff, but really we just like hanging out with each other and playing baseball. So yeah, as far as grumblings, I haven't heard anything, and if I did, they tend to go away when the season gets a little bit closer, if they ever happen, because then people are ready to go win another championship, or try to at least.
Something else that stuck out to me just looking through the bracket, the formula seemed to be a little bit different for this year for you guys. It felt like it was really good pitching, good defense. You won a couple of low-scoring, hard-fought games. Not saying it wasn't a tough road or there weren't hard-fought games along the way, but you guys threw up a bunch of runs. I mean, it was double digits against Lakeville. It was double digits against Waconia. Grill in the second day, who knows, if he had, his normal stuff. But I mean, I think it was 6 or 7 you threw up in one inning against him. And it just felt like every time I was watching your games, people were hitting barrels, driving balls out of the ballpark. It just felt like it was the offense that was really leading the charge this year.
Yeah, I won't disagree with you. I actually think we gave up not a ton more runs, but a decent amount more runs than we did last year throughout the tournament. I think we gave up, 2 or 1 against the Mammoth last year, 0 against the Saints, and then not a lot the rest of the way. This year, we gave up a few more runs, but yeah, bats were definitely alive. And I think that was something that we needed. I think we were worried. We didn't know if we were going to get Alex back this year with him moving to Florida. We're really lucky that he came back for a month in June to play baseball with us and then flew back to compete with us. Love Alex. So that was another conversation. I think in Arizona, we kind of felt a little bit older. Our ages were catching up with us, so we wanted to bring in some younger guys and some younger bats. And that's brought us Casey, who is our new center fielder, who, if you haven't seen him play, is just... he looks younger. He's faster. He goes crazy. He hits bombs. Bruns comes from the low gators. Just hits tanks. Doug hits tank. Everybody on the team just mashes, and that is, I think that's something we needed. We didn't know where that spark plug was going to come without Alex, and luckily we got Alex, but we added a couple of spark plugs with him. So I think that counts for those big scores.
Glad you worked in a couple of those guys, because it's so difficult to cover all of the talent you have. We try to cram this into a 60 to 90 minute podcast, but you've got some guys on this roster that we don't speak a whole lot about, but they certainly deserve their due. Guys like Michael Crane and Dustin Rohde and Dustin Wolf. You mentioned Bruns, but talk a little bit about just how some of the maybe less mentioned, at least on these airwaves, guys know their role and are able to contribute and what they mean to the collective effort.
You mentioned Crane, my throwing partner, one of my favorite human beings alive. Come playoff time, he was like, yeah, we have better hitters. Put somebody else in there that's hitting better than me right now. Now, I don't think we have better hitters, but we might have had better hitters at the moment, and so he is a great teammate. he was willing to give that spot up. I had not been hitting well towards the end of the year. I did not expect to be in our lineup. That's just the way it goes. Now, being able to come off the bench and run for guys and steal bases and make things happen, that's what I like to do, and I was fine with that. I was ready to pitch whenever I was needed. And luckily, I got to pitch the last 3 innings of the championship game, which was great. Dustin Rhodey, I think this time last year, there was games where he wasn't in the lineup. This year, he's hitting home runs and being one of our top producers. You've got, 18, 19 guys that are all really good baseball players. Someone's going to be hot at the right time, and they're going to get the spot. It's the way it goes. I mean, Nick Larson was hitting in the 9 hole for us, and he was the batting champ 2 years ago, right? This is just how our team is right now. It's a lot of fun. It's a ton of fun.
An embarrassment of riches indeed. Let's talk about those last 3 outs. The game ends on a line drive back to the mound. You squeeze it, flip it to second base for a inning-ending, game-ending, championship-ending double play. Your arms go up. Tell me about the feeling in that moment.
It was a really good feeling. I got hurt the week before, and then I got hurt again running in the Mammoth game. I tweaked my hamstring after I messed my knee up, and so I couldn't really play the field, and I couldn't really run anymore. I could throw, and my arm felt really good, and so I was really happy to get a chance to come in and contribute in that way. I mean, we had Ben and Taylor both ready to go if I got in trouble, thank God. But being able to help out and contribute was a good feeling, and we had a good sizable lead at that point, so having 2 guys on, I wasn't nervous yet, but with the Mammoth, they can put up a ton of runs very, very fast. And we're at the top of their lineup. So Hans is up. I let Hans on, and it's Cork on with bases loaded. And that is not a place that I want to be. So fortunately, I got him to hit one back at me and flipped it to second base. And man, it felt good to get that out of the way. I did not want to face Cork with bases loaded. I don't think anybody really does, though.
I think I was going to say there's probably not many that would want that situation regardless of the score or the situation. Absolutely. Tell me about next year. Is there going to be a drive for 4? At one point, does winning ever get old? I mean, tell me where the squad's mentality, where do you expect it to be come next spring?
I feel like we'll probably be in the exact same spot we are now. I remember last year in Arizona, we lost in the championship game to Houston, and that kind of sucked. I was talking to Joey afterwards, and Joey's like, you know what this did, though? This made me just really want to go back and win the Fed. And the truth is, all of these AAA teams could compete with all of those teams out in Arizona. I mean, maybe not with lack of pitching for a whole tournament, but in a 1-game series, absolutely. And so the talent here is excellent. I don't think on a team with people who like to win as much as we do that there will be any loss or drive gone to win again. It's always best to end the season on a win, as you know, because you guys have won now twice in a row too. I don't think that's going to ever go away. I think as long as we're playing we're able to play the way we want to, I think we'll keep pushing it as hard as we can. Injuries aside and all of the other stuff. I just think that we like to win too much to not try and go for it.
It's a fair point, and I like to give your guys some grief, both publicly and in person, around wanting some parity for the league and wanting a different champion and having new blood and spreading some of that glory and history around. But hats are off to you guys. In my opinion, you do it the right way. You're all really great dudes, super talented. To do what you've done is remarkable. I mean, 3 championships in a row with the league, having it proven to the point where it's got to is just an incredible accomplishment, and hats off to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and congratulations to you too on your back-to-back championships. I'm guessing we'll see you in the AAA here next year, hopefully. It's really, really difficult. This league is...
Consider the target on your back. I know it was this year and you guys survived, but once again, I know that you guys will get everybody's best shot in next year, and I know we'll do everything we can to prevent that four-peat. But for now, congrats to you. Congrats to the Grays. Well-deserved toast to the champions, the Minoka Grays.
Thank you. And final thing here real quick. I know I've thanked you every time I've been on this, but the work you guys have done this year on this podcast has been awesome. The things that you guys do for the league, I can't say enough about it. And that goes for the whole board too, Lars and all of those guys. We are so lucky to have this community, not just the baseball, right? Like the baseball's fun, but like the hanging out at the fields before the games, the playoff weekends, like we're so fortunate. And I miss this stuff already. I do. I miss playoff baseball already.
Well, we thank you for the words and the recognition. Truly mean a lot that we've got such great buy-in from you and others across the league. But thank you again for your time, and congrats again to your squad. We'll be looking forward to seeing you around the ballpark again next year.
Thanks. I look forward to it, guys.
Well, can't say enough about that run for the Grays. I mean, to do what they've done is really incredible. There's been three-peats before in the Federal League, but to do it with the amount of talent that we now have in this league is, I think, probably the most unbelievable accomplishment that any team has done. I don't think I'm going on a limb when I say that.
No, it is pretty wild. I mean, it's hard enough. The parity is just hodgepodging more and more as the years pass here, and so it is super impressive. But when you have a pitching lineup like that where there is not any, you can get into third, fourth games of the weekend and there's barely, if any, fall off. Impressive. Really good dudes too. So congratulations to them. Solid guys. Three-peat. And like you said, everyone's going to be, they've had their target on their back already, but it's just getting bigger. So Yeah. Teams often go how their leaders kind of set that tone, and Joey has that team just in lockstep, and it's not a surprise to see the results that they've been able to turn out year after year. Doing it again, I'm sure it will be at the top of their list, but nah.
Yeah, you don't think so?
No, Joey's probably good. They're like, we're good, right?
3 and done. They're running out of fingers for their rings that they like to buy there. But
running out of fingers, you just gave them a T-shirt for next year.
Well, that is our toast episode. Thank you so much for bearing with us with that long weather delay. We finally got that episode out, finally able to record now that we've crowned all of our champions. Congrats again to the Capital City Cannons, to the St. Michael Angels, the Apple Valley A's, and the Minoka Grays. Fantastic seasons capped off with a cup. So toast to you. Cheers to you. Congrats again on some really great seasons. But we're not done yet, right? We've got 2 more episodes. Wait, there's more.
Doke on everybody. They're going to be like, why is there 3 more minutes? Why is there 3 more? All right.
We've got 2 more episodes that we're going to bring you this season, even though the playoffs are all wrapped up. A very special episode next week. We are going to be up in Bruton, Minnesota at the Max Bat manufacturing facility. We are going to show you everything behind the curtain up there and what goes into making bats. We're going to sit down with AJ Hadley, again, of Max Bats, have another conversation with him. The rest of the episode is going to be denoted to stats. For you numbers guys, we're going to talk about some of the key performers, some of the individual contributions that made up the season. We're going to give our own version of the MVP, Cy Young. These are all unofficial, obviously for entertainment purposes only, but we're going to go ahead and...
that disclaimer doesn't work, Josh.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Have you not learned anything? That does not work.
So look forward to that, especially if you think your name might be called. Looking forward to working in a lot of the great individual contributions that made up this season. So, and then our final episode will be in 2 weeks, where we will do the way too early preview of 2026. We'll talk about some potential rule changes and get into some of that. We'll be opening back up the Fed Up mailbag again, so we'll be bringing that back. So we want to hear from you. What do you think, in your opinion, will make the league better? What rule changes do we need to enact to make the Federal League even better? Thank you, everybody, again for joining us and being patient with us while we seated our table for the toast. But looking forward to joining you from Bruton, Minnesota next week. Until then, stay fed.